Hello and welcome back to the agenda here on the Blood Red channel. I'm your host, Edward Kay, and I'm joined today by Andrew Beasley, and we're going to be taking a look back at Liverpool's chastening 5-2 defeat at Anfield against Real Madrid. And I suppose the main thing to worry about after a loss like that, I mean, it's not really the second leg after a loss like that, with it being pretty much tie over. I suppose the main thing to worry about, Andrew, is do you think that's going to halt Liverpool's momentum in the Premier League with the nature of that defeat?
I mean, it's obviously going to have dented their confidence, clearly, which you'd like to think was coming back after the 2-0 wins against Everton and Newcastle. At the same time, they can probably put it to one side in a sense. I mean, obviously, they thankfully don't have to play Real Madrid every week. You know, there was lots to like about what they did in that game, particularly, obviously, the first 20 minutes because they went 2-0 up and stuff like that. So I think Klopp said, you know, there are positives from that game and we have to sort of cling to them. And he's obviously right on that. And next up is Crystal Palace, and obviously they'll carry their own threat, and no doubt, Selhurst Park will be lively because it's a Saturday evening kickoff and stuff like that. But it's not the same as playing Real Madrid, of course it isn't. So they wouldn't be human if it hadn't sort of affected them slightly. But hopefully it won't have too big an impact on how they get on in the league this weekend.
Yeah, as Jurgen Klopp says, there were positives. I think the majority of the positives on the night did come in that first half because the second half was pretty shambolic from the Reds, really. I mean, the two that stuck out, obviously, you've got that fourth deflected goal, which Liverpool seem to have conceded quite a few deflected goals this season. I'm not sure what that's about. But the third and fifth goals, I mean, the way Liverpool switched off after Joe Gomez giving away the free kick in a tricky position for the third one was pretty poor. But, I mean, that fifth goal that pretty much buries the tie, really. It's a bit unforgivable, wasn't it, Andrew? It was like watching, it was like when you hand the 5-year-old your controller if you're playing FIFA, you know, people were just running around like headless chickens, and Modric managed to run through, you know, that Liverpool midfield. I mean, and he's 30, 36, 37 now. It was a bit embarrassing, really, wasn't it? So what was, you know, the sort of the low moment for you in that second half?
Yeah, where do you start? I mean, you're right in what you say. I mean, the fourth goal was unlucky. I think in many ways, the most disappointing thing is how poor Liverpool were going forward. Now, obviously, Madrid went 3-2 up very early in the second half, so there was sort of no, they had no real need to attack unless an opportunity presented itself. But I think Liverpool had just two shots in the second half, and one of them was the long-range one by Chetik. I mean, he's about 30 yards out, and he wasn't far wide, but you know, he's unlikely to score. And then Firmino had a header from a set piece, and that was it. So that was very disappointing that Liverpool just didn't really create anything because, you know, for all their problems defensively this season, they've often been quite good going forward, but they weren't there. But the third was a real sort of hammer blow because, you know, going in halftime at 2-2 was obviously not ideal, having been 2-0 up, but it wasn't a disastrous position. But as soon as Madrid got the lead, they could then play the game on their terms, which is obviously the last thing Liverpool need, particularly with their history against them. But yeah, the fifth goal, I mean, I think it's Fabinho should have fouled him, taking a yellow card by Chetik. All right, he doesn't have the experience, but, you know, he got pretty close. Maybe he should take him down, take a yellow card. You know, you're not getting sent off there, and it'd be it's a big ask if they'd have lost 4-2, but to give away such a soft goal for 5, as you say, I mean, it must end the tie. You know, they've done some remarkable things in the past, but winning by 3 at Real Madrid is surely beyond them. So yeah, the fifth goal, and then just nothing really happened after that. I think Firmino's header shot was just after that. That was the 70th minute. There wasn't another shot from either side. Real Madrid weren't bothered, and understandably so, and Liverpool couldn't break them down. So sort of crazy that it was a 7-goal game and it was all over by the 70th minute.
Yeah, it was a dead rubber once that fifth goal went in for Real Madrid. But it's important, I suppose, to look at the positives from a Liverpool perspective. Like we said, most of those did come in that first half. And after about, I think it was 4 minutes, Darwin Núñez scored. And I mean, obviously it's the exact same finish he tried to execute against Fulham. Personally, I still think that Fulham one should have gone down as an own goal because I'm not sure he actually made contact with it, but he absolutely nailed it this time. To be fair to him, I mean, what a finish that was! And are we finally starting to see the player that Liverpool thought they bought? Do you reckon?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously with a forward, that sort of thing gets defined by goals and to a lesser extent assists. I mean, when you look at the fact that he's having so many good chances, anyone will tell you that that's basically a positive. And I think what I like about him as well as sort of underrated quality, if you like, but he doesn't seem to his head doesn't drop. He doesn't seem to lose confidence. I mean, with the run he's been on, a lot of players in a similar position might not be trying back heel flick finishes against Real Madrid and stuff like that. But, he's happy to do that. So I think that's a good sign as well. He looks like he's stayed pretty positive. I guess scoring against Newcastle the previous game perhaps gave him a bit of a boost as well. But it's interesting to see the partnership with him and Salah. Obviously, the stats came out, I think, last week. They're the top combination in the Premier League for frequency of creating chances for each other. All of Nunez's assists for Liverpool have been for Salah. The goal the other night was the first one that's gone from Salah to Nunez. So with obviously a bit of uncertainty with the other forwards, Gakpo's starting to look a lot better, but he's still new, and obviously the injuries to the others and stuff like that. With Nunez and Salah, if they can get on the same wavelength on a regular basis, then it can only be good for Liverpool. So I mean, really, because obviously the second goal was a gift. That first goal really is sort of the main positive to take, I guess, really.
Yeah, the second goal ended up being a gift for both sides, didn't it? And I wanted to bring you on to that because it was. I mean, I think most people, maybe you could throw Edison in there in contention, but I think most people would generally probably agree that was the two best keepers in the world facing off against each other, and it's probably not what we expected to see from either of them. Who do you think's mistake was worse?
That's an interesting one. Probably Courtois, because I think he had a bit more time. Salah wasn't closing him down as quickly as Vinicius was closing down Alisson. At least that's how I remember it. So I think Courtois was worse. But it's not the first time that Alisson's been caught like that. I mean, I know, understand how they want to play, and it's right that they want to be on the front foot and stuff like this. But there's always a time and a place to just, kick it into the Kenny Dalglish stand and put it out for a throw in and the danger passes, because such a big moment as well. I mean, obviously, I'm sure Madrid would have had chances in the second half, but just getting in at 2-1 up, would have been a much better position to be in, obviously. So yeah, the timing as much as the mistake was bad, but purely on the errors, I think Courtois was probably worse.
Yeah, Courtois had more of that classic goalkeeping blunder about it, didn't it? Really, Alisson's it just looked a bit slack, to be honest. I thought it was a bit poor from him, really. Obviously, like you say, we've seen him get caught before, but the ones that come to mind there, that Leicester one where he tried to sort of Cruyff turn and got caught, it's not really quite the same as that, is it? He did have the time to just sort of belt it out. But we'll move on to the other important Liverpool news that's come out this week. It came out before the Real Madrid fixture, so who knows? They might have changed their mind and decided the club is up for sale after watching that. But John Henry coming out and speaking in Boston and revealing that the club is not for sale. I mean, firstly, I just want to get your thoughts on that. How are you feeling? Because personally, I'm quite a fan of FSG. I know that might not make me popular in the comments section here, but I'd be happy for them to stay. So what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think if you judge them on literally everything, for me, they've been, good owners. I mean, the way that they built the structure and built the team, won the Champions League, won the Premier League, and they've made massive improvements to the stadium, which are ongoing, built a new training ground, all these sorts of things. Obviously, a lot of people look at the investment and say they haven't invested enough money in the squad. And I mean, there's certainly something in that. But at the same time, you could argue the last sort of year, how well has the money been invested? Not that they've not bought good players, but has it been invested in the right areas of the team and stuff like that? But I mean, I would argue that's not really on FSG as such. It's the people that they've put in place to sort of deal with buying the players and stuff like that. And, they will never be perfect. And I don't think anyone would sort of defend them entirely 100% for everything they've done and stuff like that. But I think there's certainly, worse options out there. I mean, personally, I'd prefer them to being owned by any country, be that, Qatar, as has been rumoured, or England or any country. It just it wouldn't sit right with me, that sort of thing. So, they're not perfect owners, but are there many, better options when you look at the whole picture and everything? There probably aren't too many. And I think the thing about him saying that they're not for sale, I mean, I think obviously, I'd have no inside knowledge on this, but I sort of feel like things like football clubs are kind of always for sale. If someone, it's always say they're not for sale, but if someone comes along and puts 4 billion on the table, well, maybe they are for sale, or whatever figure they have in mind, So it was interesting that it came out, though, because obviously there was a lot of news about it being for sale, and now they're coming out and saying not. So whether they've explored the possibility and they haven't sort of had any sort of satisfactory offers, that may be part of it. I don't really know. But yeah, as I say, I think they're probably kind of always for sale. But yeah, we'll obviously have to see what happens with that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's a case of, people who want FSG out. I'm sure a lot of Liverpool football Twitter would be fine with having state ownership because they just want the transfers incomings. But I mean, proper Liverpool fans, not many people want to be run by a state, and FSG, no. They've won a lot with them there, and they have backed Klopp, just maybe not when everyone's wanted them to back him, like in the summer. Hopefully they'll back him this summer. But do you think that obviously they've said it in the quotes, John Henry said that they are still speaking to potential investors, just not looking for a full sale. Do you think it's been impacted? And I suppose it sort of has to be impacted by the news of Manchester United going up for sale as well, because obviously there's only so many suitors out there interested in buying a football club that are going to have the 4, 5, 6 billion it's going to take to buy a Liverpool or a Manchester United. So do you think sort of the market shrunk a bit as a result of that?
Yeah, that's another possibility. I mean, if it were just Liverpool for sale from, among the big clubs, they might get better offers and more offers than with United being on the market as well. I mean, the sort of strange thing, nobody would defend the Glazers, but obviously Manchester United have spent a lot of money on their team. There could be worse owners for them as well. The fans won't want to hear it. And I'm not sort of defending them, but at the same time, they have spent a lot of money. And I think United getting taken over by Qatar or whatever, I mean, how much more money can they spend? I mean, obviously they can spend more, but, yeah, you're probably right. I mean, the more competition there are, I mean, how many, multi-billionaires are out there beyond nation states and stuff like that. So, yeah, it could be that they're just sort of FSG have looked at that and thought, well, we can, if we say no for now and then, maybe try again in a year's time if United sale goes through or whatever, and then see who's around year's time, 2 years time, stuff like that. But it's just such a strange sort of thing about selling something for billions and billions of pounds. I mean, you could argue the Liverpool sort of package is probably cheaper than United because United need to upgrade their ground and their training ground and stuff like that, and all that has sort of been done for Liverpool. It needs investment in the team, but that's investing in the team is cheaper than investing in I mean, there's even rumours they'll build a whole new stadium. I'm not sure that's the case, but even so, upgrading Old Trafford, a lot of money, far more than investing purely in the playing squad and stuff like that. So you'd think Liverpool might look sort of pretty attractive in comparison because a lot of the pieces are in place. But yeah, there's just so many factors, and as you say, there's so sort of few people who can afford these sort of these fees for these football clubs that it's always hard to know exactly what's going to happen, really.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting comparison you make there, really, between the Glazers and FSG. Because obviously, the Glazers have pumped money, and United have spent however much more than Liverpool during the time that FSG have been there. But like you say, Old Trafford's been allowed to rot, really. Whereas you look at Anfield, its expansion's always going on. FSG they've been really good for the club in that way, and I think that's something that's overlooked. A lot of people in the comments talking about the structure that FSG have brought in as well. I think that's been a massive thing that often gets overlooked. There's no point having a load of money to throw at people if it's just going to be wasted, like we've seen at a Man United or an Everton. Whereas, there's not many people Liverpool have bought in the recent years that have been flops, really. The only one that comes to mind for big money is Naby Keita, potentially. But that is all we're going to have time for on the Morning Bulletin today. So, Andrew, thanks for joining me, and we'll catch you next time.